Good morning, everyone. First of all, on behalf of Genesis Housing Association, I'd like to thank the Minister and David for coming along to take part in this discussion today, and for all of you for attending. I also want to thank Chris Walker for all his hard work in authoring this report, and to Policy Exchange for hosting us here today, and of course to Winkworth Sherwood for co-sponsoring this report with us. We're here today, I think it's 45 days until the general election. So I think we've timed this event quite well, coming as it does just a week or so after the largest gathering of housing campaigners and representatives coming together in the building next door to call for the next government to commit to tackling the housing crisis within a generation. Over 2,000 people heard last week from politicians as diverse as Nigel Farage, Caroline Lucas, Hilary Benn and Grant Shapps about their plans for reform of housing should they get into power after polling day on May the 7th. This is a campaign that Genesis is proud to support. We ourselves hosted a group of campaigners last week who cycled 212 miles from the northwest of England down to our head office to raise awareness of the Homes for Britain campaign. That's quite some accomplishment, and it does demonstrate the passion that the housing sector feels about finally putting housing on the agenda of politicians. Today's event and the report we are discussing today is part of that debate. And it is one that has some controversy surrounding it. When we sponsored this report from Policy Exchange, we knew it would spark some exchanges from amongst the sector. And whilst we do not support everything that's written and recommended in this report, we firmly feel there is much within it, if acted on by the next government, that would do much to help housing associations meet the demand for housing that everyone in this room knows exists. We believe it is time for a new settlement between government and housing associations. The current one has its roots in the Housing Act 1974. The sector has moved on quite a long way since then. As a nation, we know we need to build over 200,000 homes a year to meet unprecedented demand. We are falling well short. We are falling short partly because policy, procedures, assumptions and expectations built up over the last 40 years get in the way and hinder the ability of councils and housing associations to build those homes. That's why this report is called Freeing Housing Associations. We need government to realise that as a sector, we are not being enabled to do what we know needs to be done. Housing associations have a lot to offer in helping to solve the housing crisis, but we are not going to be able to do very much more than we already are unless something gives. I don't know about you, but I cannot see a time in the next 5 to 10 years where the good old days of associations receiving 50% or higher grant contributions to the cost of development will ever make a comeback. So we need to be radical. We have to be radical because there are people, families, older people, single people, children, all facing serious housing situations which are negatively affecting their lives. I know some of the ideas in this report do not find favour with everyone in the sector, but there are ideas in the document which are well worth exploring and debating. Simply dismissing all of the contents out of hand, as some have done, is not going to help us get homes built. I don't disagree with David. We would support government writing off grant, but if that is not on the table, what else can be done? Grant provided to the sector over the last 30 to 40 years is not working for either the government or the taxpayer. It is a sunken cost, sitting on housing association balance sheets doing absolutely nothing. Any agreement to repay a proportion of the grant, rather than all of it, would see a receipt for government to spend or invest as it sees fit. It would be better, would it not, if it was reinvested in a concerted large-scale housing programme. So we propose that a one-off boost to government could be provided if the current grant book was sold to a third party to finance that programme, which associations such as ours could help deliver. We could have a recycled capital grant programme. You might ask, why would we use our resources to pay back grant which is already benefiting us? To a large extent, of course, it would depend on the terms of repayment and whether it's part of a deal, a much bigger deal, to secure greater freedoms and flexibilities, enabling us to do more. The calculations that we've carried out in Genesis show that if we were to have a 50% discount and paid back grant over a 40-year period, combined with a much more aggressive programme of property disposals, we could easily see a 25% increase in our development programme. That's not to be sneezed at. We currently have a plan in place as part of our new corporate strategy to build at least 1,000 new homes a year over the next 5 years. That's an important contribution, but if the grant mechanism was reformed, as this report outlines, we could do so much more. If we extrapolate that across the G15, the largest London-based associations, such a programme could see the delivery of 12,500 additional homes over 5 years. And this is a sector, or part of the sector, that already has got plans for 93,000 homes. So that could go up to over 105,000. In return for using our capacity in this way, it is right that we seek freedoms from some of the funding rules and regulations that we currently work under. Conditions of grant, outmoded nominations agreements should all be reviewed to see how they help secure delivery. That's what we're here to talk about today, how we get more homes delivered. Regulatory reform could and would allow us to get on with the job of delivering new homes for people who need them most, right here in London and the South East, where the need is most acute. Thank you.